Great citizens of the world. This is anonymous. After our previous reporting on the outbreak of the known coronavirus, COVID-19, and the associated quarantine lockdowns, our supporters asked us what we expect to happen in the coming weeks and months. It would be impossible for us to really predict the situation, especially in a situation that is evolving so rapidly, but we've been monitoring this situation closely and we are comfortable enough in our research to make a few predictions about what lies ahead. These are just predictions and are not, as always, interpreted as factual explanations. You have to do your own research. One thing is certain, we only see the initial phase of this pandemic, and this is something that experts from all over the world agree on. The United States and Europe have both been relatively safe from deadly outbreaks in recent decades. But it seems their luck has run out. In fact, these areas could end up getting much worse, because they have refused to take this issue seriously at an early stage. The citizens of Italy now deplore the cavalier attitude they had in the country in the first days of the outbreak and warn others that this pathogen is much more dangerous than seasonal flu. Unfortunately, no one seems to listen to these warnings, especially in the US and the UK, which are likely to end up as global epicenters due to their inaction. In the United States, officials are finally beginning to realize that the disease is about to explode domestically, but for various reasons, citizens of the country would never voluntarily participate in the kind of social aloofness needed to slow its spread. This will serve as a perfect excuse for the US government to proclaim procedural law, a process that has already begun with President Donald Trump's recent national emergency decree. The National Guard is already active in several cities in the country. Seattle, Los Angeles and New York City are likely to be under a Wuhan-style quarantine lockdown within weeks, where no one is allowed to enter or leave the cities unless they have special permission from the government, which will be very difficult to obtain. Our sources in the States believe that New York will be the first city to go into lockdown, since the numbers of cases are going exponentially in the city, and the governor of the state has expressed in a recent press conference that such measures would not be ruled out. The New York Times has reported that the city's wealthiest citizens began fleeing the area after hearing rumors that a lockdown was imminent. Around the same time, The Guardian spoke with private jet drivers who revealed that there has been a surge in business in the past month because the super-rich are all fleeing to air multi-million-dollar Day of Judgment bunkers. If the virus or military-style lockdowns haven't hit your neighborhood, you may still think this is a joke because of the misleading statistics, but whether you realize it or not, your life is about to change in a big way. There is a very real possibility that the US elections will be suspended or cancelled due to the coronavirus. In fact, primary elections in the country have already been delayed due to the outbreak, and there is now a shortage of voters. Presidential elections are even starting to be cancelled, and there are already several publications predicting the possibility of a cancelled election. What we are likely to see is another major depression that will completely reorganize the world economy in a way that cannot be predicted at this time. The first lockdowns in China created a disruption in the supply chain that resulted in a global decline in markets, and this was to be expected given that China is now the production center of the world and many people are out of work for an extended period of time. For the United States, the effects of this situation could have been temporary, but the Federal Reserve panicked and took a number of reckless steps to keep the markets afloat, first by injecting $1.5 trillion for Wall Street, and then by lowering interest rates to zero and pulling more money, which will lead to inflation and less purchasing power for the average person, which is likely to result in an economic depression. This virus is something that our species will have to deal with from time to time, but unfortunately a lot of people will be lost in this tragedy, and all our lives will be affected by the time this thing is over. When the dust has settled, we will wake up in another world, just as we did on the 12th of September 2001. There will be new agencies and bureaucracies to enforce new medical laws, and these governing bodies will probably be global. As we've seen with the tigers of the past, the people in power will use this crisis as an excuse to achieve goals they have been working on for a long time. The strict quarantine measures will in principle remain in place until March 2021, but can, of course, easily be extended, as experts and politicians have already hinted. Some of the elderly belong to the vulnerable target group. In any case, they will no longer have any added value for the development of the future robotics prison world. The COVID-19 virus has been tuned and designed in such a way that, once you are rid of the infection, you are basically ready for the vaccine syringe that will be distributed and produced by all countries in the meantime. This is based on a vaccination initially against or eventually for the infection in combination with a microNano chip. Weeks of artificial respiration until the robotization is ready. This chip transmits everything, not what a carrier ever wants. Time teaches you. Voluntarily on call from home, the streets and roads, or in the intensive care IC department. Farewell day will never happen because of the spread and countries will hide the death numbers. One day you will have to be infected by those responsible. Billions will be taken from you, the people will be full. Putting yourself on display will be temporarily fun. The COVID-19 virus is scientifically and indescribably powerful. Spring water from shops will run out. Drinking water would help you against the infection, but the infection will spread further with tap water. Groups of insurgents or a war zone will be limited as much as possible. Street bans will follow. You will be charged with murdering self-defense. Between the 9th of March 2020 and the 13th of March 2020, the local police have announced a handing all kinds of weapons without prosecution of illegal possession. The technology will be abused against you forever. Best time in prison is running out. Individual decisions and making your own choices will be completely eliminated. You will serve those responsible until your last breath. God forgive us all. We are anonymous. We are legion. We do not forgive. We do not forget. Expect us.